the 401k is the worst retirement vehicle in America. I know I draw a hard line in the sand when I say that. But if you go look at statistics, not one single person has been able to sustain retirement solely based off that plan. Right. And essentially in America, we had initially, I should say, we had a three-legged stool plan, right? Which was, we had a pension, we had a 401k, and we had personal savings, right? Yeah, I'm sorry. We had a pension, personal savings, and then we had Social Security, right? So that was our three-legged stool that was supposed to sustain us. But then they had a little problem. We started living too long. So you can work 30 years for a company, but then on top of that, you can live another 40, 50 years. We just came back from Chicago. Her grandmother celebrated 100 years old, right? So if people are living long, the companies are saying, hey, we can't sustain paying you that long. So we're going to have to give you the autonomy to now run your retirement. And we're going to introduce this 401k plan and you figure it out, right? We're going to give you some accumulation. We're going to give you some pre-tax growth, but it's on you to figure out the retirement. And whether you went to school for engineering, a teacher, a lawyer, a doctor, you don't know anything about finance and compounding interest and guarantee streams of income. And so you look up 30, 40 years and you're like, where's my money? Right? 2018, we saw a financial crisis where people in their 60s lost anywhere between 25 to 35% of their 401k money. And now they can't retire. And so any financial professional, any great one will tell you, hey, you can't have all your eggs in one basket. But I don't necessarily know too many financial professionals today really pushing 401ks.
So what would be the alternative?
Yeah.
Because it does have a lot of advantages, obviously, tax standpoint. And for most people, that's where most of their money is saved, retirement. So if somebody did not participate, and if the company matches, that's free money.
Yeah.
So what would be the alternative?
So my alternative is so if I'm speaking to, especially our age, millennials, I'm now telling them about IULs. Hey, you can put into this plan. Now, obviously, you got to use after tax dollars, right? So you lose that tax deferred. But the thing about taxes is we don't know how much taxes are going to be in the future. Right. And so, I may have that tax deferred and I may get that little bit of 3% from my job, which is essentially a cash balance plan for the company. And they get a tax write off for that. But you as the employee don't get a tax write off for that. Right. And so you can use an IUL, for an example, which is an index universal life designed properly. You can minimize the death benefit to maximize the cash value growth, getting compounding interest from an index. And many studies have shown over the years, you put a 401k in the S&P 500 versus an IUL with just a cap of 9%. And you're going to see over 20 years, 30 years, long term, not short term, right? Long term, that this vehicle, IUL, is going to give you more. If you fund it properly, use it properly, it'll be there and it'll be more. And in some instances, in some companies, we have the ability to turn those IULs into a lifetime income rider, where it can pay you out too as well. And those funds are tax advantage, meaning that you don't have to pay taxes on the gains in that IUL, which is a huge benefit.
When you say funded properly, explain what that means.
So it has to be over the target premium, which is the cost of insurance. Right. And so it is.
That's important for people to understand.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they underfund it.
Correct.
That causes problems.
It does, because then that policy can lapse.
Because who would want to overpay it unless they're fully educated on why you're over? Nobody wants to overpay for anything.
Exactly. 100%. So we don't sell IULs as a death benefit, a death policy, because it's really not that. Right. And by the way, it's not for everybody. This is not for, I got $50 a month, man, I'm trying to become a millionaire. It doesn't work like that. This is for business owners. We structure a lot of IUL policies. People are paying, they're doing lump sums, they're dropping $10,000, $20,000, paying $1,000 a month, low death benefit, $150,000. Like that's where it's at. Now, if you're 20 years old, man, you could start something and then work your way up. You can start $200, $150 a month and build up over time because your cost of insurance is low.
So let's fully explain this for people, right? It's a base premium that, let's say you have a $300,000 policy. Mm-hmm. Base premium minimal, right? Let's say $50 a month. That's the minimum amount that you got to pay to keep the policy going. Mm-hmm. Target premium, which you say, that's like the recommended. And then there's the maximum. Mm-hmm. If you do over to that, it becomes taxable.
That's correct.
Right?
Yeah.
You want to do to the max or close to the max,
So,
right?
Yeah, close to the max.
Because that's where that's where you could really get the compounding interest.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
So you will always recommend, because even if somebody has a policy, you would recommend for them to know, because people don't even know what their max amount is that they could put in per year.
Right.
You would recommend that they know what their max amount is and try to do up to the max.
Correct. So we always educate everybody, say, hey, this is where your baseline is. This is where you want to be. Can you do this? And sometimes if they can't, then we adjust it, right? We can drop. So like you said, 300,000, then we may need to drop that down to 200,000. We may need to drop that down to 100,000 so that their comfortability is at that max, but that policy is not too expensive to where to eat up the money that.
Because even from an IRS standpoint, that lets you know that it has great tax advantages because the IRS sets a limit.
Correct.
Because after that, what does it become? A modified endowment contract?
Yeah, it comes to MEC. Yep.
So
you don't want that.
People don't even know that though.
Yeah.
But it's like for the IRS to set a limit, that lets you know that, because what really educated people would do, they would just dump millions of dollars into the policy because it's tax advantage. So the fact that the IRS even has a cap lets you know that that's something that's beneficial, because why would they even set a cap if it's not beneficial?
Right.
100%.
Right. And that's definitely something, we'll definitely get into a lot of details, at InvestFest, talking about, the TAMRA, the DEFRA, the 7702, all of the rules that's in place so people understand. Because it sounds great. It's like, well, it sounds too good to be true. Well, no, there's rules in place. IRS, got some rules in place. Obviously, if the IRS got rules, then somebody messed it up for all of us, right? It's like you saying, back in the day, people were just dumping millions of dollars into a $10,000 policy. And the IRS is like, wait a minute, hold on.
Yeah.
What y'all doing? Yeah, we got to set some limitations here. Yeah.
It's interesting.